My name is Akeil and I am made mixed. I am a quarter Swiss, a quarter Nigerian and half Scottish. I identify as mixed, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. I was raised by a mixed mother who never really identified with her Swiss side. So in her eyes she was black. And so for me growing up I've always been raised by a black woman. So in my head I've been a lot blacker than I necessarily perceived to be. So I identify as mixed because I do have a white father, but I've never really had a relationship with him that made me feel like I was part of that kind of white culture or identify as white. I grew up in North London, which is predominantly Turkish, but also there was quite a number of black people at my school, and it was always, growing up, it's always a world that I wanted to be a part of, but I never really was welcome into it because I didn't act a certain way that fit in with the black kids at my school, and then also all of my friends were white as well, who I ended up hanging around with. So I just always kind of struggled with kind of trying to fit into it, even though in my head that's how I saw myself, even though no one else seemed to really look at me as black.
And do you think people can tell where you're from?
No. I get Brazilian, Egyptian and Moroccan the most. Specifically Egyptian. Yeah, no one can ever tell, and people are in utter shock when I tell them that I'm West African instead of North African. I get told more by white people, you are not black, or you are not this. Whereas other people of colour, as soon as I tell them, or I tell them how I identify, which is more black than white, they're like, yeah, cool. But it's by white people, they are the ones that tell me, you are not black. And then I'm there like, no, this is how I identify, not just because of my actual literal heritage, but also by the fact that I was raised by a woman who identified as black. And so for me, everything that I've experienced is black culture.
So do you think being mixed race is confusing?
It was very confusing growing up, very confusing. As I said, all of my friends were white. So for me, all I ever wanted to be was just a little white boy. And I think what comes into that as well is the fact that I'm also gay. These two things come in and makes it so confusing, because all I wanted to be was like a masculine white boy, because like life just seemed so easy and everyone just worshipped you. And I kind of had this weird thing with my hair and hating it, and because it just kind of was a signifier of my otherness. And then my middle name is James, which is my paternal grandfather's name. So I had it in my head that when I was of the age, I was going to change my name to James. I wanted to get rid of my name, I hated it. And then I wanted to get rid of my hair and my name. That was the two big things for me as a 14-year-old boy. That was what I was going to do. I eventually did get rid of the curls. I got rid of them. I had relaxed hair for about 4 years. I've only actually had these back for about 2 years. I just couldn't go back to my curls. And I remember being at uni and being like, I'm never going to go back to my curls, because I didn't see them as professional / attractive. And so therefore I was like, why would I want to go back to something where I'm not going to find a man, I'm not going to find a job, you know? And then it took I couldn't even tell you what it was. 2 years ago, it just hit me. I was just like, what am I doing? I'm torturing my scalp and my hair for what? To wear a hat over it. It doesn't work. So I went to a salon after work, because it was the first place I could find in central London, and I had this much growth and then this much length of straight hair, and I said to the woman, just cut it at the curl. I had to ask her 4 times to do it, because she was like, no. She was like, it's a lot of hair. And I was like, just do it. And then she cut it, and I almost cried because it looked so bad. It looked so bad because basically the curls were still growing a little bit straight, and it looked so bad. I literally looked like Bart Simpson. It was kind of stood on end. So I put the hat back on, was almost in tears on the way home. Got home, got in the shower, washed my hair, and then suddenly these curls just appeared, and I was like, thank God. I know, I love them. It's now become, which is a shock, the main signifier for how I identify. My hair it means everything to me.
And their perfection.
Boing. I love it.
Do you think mixed race people get enough media attention?
I work in the fashion industry, So my answer to that would be yes, but as a commodity. At the moment, it's really, really fashionable to be mixed race, especially one whose race is ambiguous. Because when there's no specific signifier, then that means you can identify with a lot of people. But what I do feel is, like I said, that is a commodity, which means that eventually that will ebb away, and then a new race will come along and take over as the kind of like exoticized fashion trend, you know? And that's how I see it with the fashion industry. People think that it's about like, oh no, you're giving a platform for mixed race people. I don't feel it's the same. I feel like we're no better than the next big shoe or the new eyeliner that's coming out. It's just a trend, and we're just part of this trend that eventually will just disappear. And I was recently speaking to someone who is a model, who's a white model, and she was saying how, she feels like, you know, that being a person of colour is kind of like better nowadays and stuff like that. But then what I was arguing is that, yes, at the moment, maybe black models and mixed models and models of colour are getting a few more jobs, but you're always going to be the normal and standard version of beauty at the end of the day. You're going to be timeless. Whereas I think mixed people are having a moment right now, and that's why they need to grab every single opportunity that they can that they're being offered. But then I think in representation elsewhere, I think that it's not so much that they're not being represented, it's that their stories aren't being told. So they may be seen on TV, but their specific story as being mixed race is not being told. So yeah, I do think that more representation is needed, not just in terms of actual visibility, but in terms of actual story as well.
Yeah, that's important.
And different stories, because at the end of the day, mixed race people aren't one monolithic group. They're not just one standard version of each other. They're all incredibly different. Like my experience to your experience is completely different.